Hi, it's Rabbi Lewis wishing you an early Shabbat Shalom. And the thing I want to talk about this week actually starts in next week's Parashat. Um, and it's when the Israelites have crossed through the sea and the Egyptian soldiers are drowning in the sea. The Midrash tells us that the angels in heaven are singing, rejoicing in the suffering of the Egyptian soldiers. And God stops them and says, "How can you sing while my creation is drowning in the sea?" And we learn from this compassion, that we're supposed to understand that Egyptian soldiers suffered so that we could be free. So even in our victory, we're supposed to have Rahmanis for the enemy. It's a good lesson. It's one that we enact during Passover when we take a drop of wine from our Kiddush cups for each of the 10 plagues. And that really brings us back to this week's Parashah, because we get the last of the 10 plagues. And with that drop of wine custom, we should really question how one drop of wine for each plague really is equatable. Right? The plague of the frogs hardly seems like it's on par with the death of the firstborn. Right? If we truly wanted to equate them, one drop of wine for a plague of frogs should be like vats upon water towers full of and oceans full of wine that we would pour to remember the death and suffering of so many. And it is something that troubles me about this week's Torah portion, is that we don't find compassion for the Egyptian mothers and fathers who lost their firstborn. We do get that lesson later about the Egyptian soldiers. So it's something that we really ought to think about, that we should have fewer enemies in our lives, because it causes us to detach ourselves from empathy. No matter what we enter into, whether it's competition or even competition at work or in school, that we should never try and achieve something at the expense of somebody else. And if it does come at the expense of somebody else, then it's best when we show true caring for them and understanding what it would be like to be in their shoes. So one way I thought of this was, I was very moved once at a school theater production where I saw the students actually enjoying themselves, putting on the show, knowing how much work went into it, and at the curtain call, how there was this real sense of everyone, the actors, the people behind the scenes doing production, the people doing the lighting, and the ones who set up the sets, that there was a sense of camaraderie, that they all came together to do something wonderful. And I got a little envious, because in high school, I was a wrestler, an individual sport. And every time I went onto the mat, it was a matter of win or lose. I could have done my best performance, been at the top of my game, and still lost to someone who was better than me. And that's okay, competition is important. But I also think it's important to have more experiences where we work together, where you put yourself into a situation where the more I work towards raising the people up around me and letting them raise me up, that we can achieve together. And that's how we perhaps overcome that worst possible instinct of dehumanizing the other, of assuming everybody who is our competition is inherently evil and worthy of losing. And the more we work together, it causes us to see each other as truly equals who are working towards something. So let us make sure that we are showing compassion to one another, that instead of just trying to stand on top of others or bring them down, that we're truly trying to do as much as we can in our lives to bring others up along with us. So those are my thoughts on Parashat Bo. And as we read about the 10th plague this weekend, let's show a lot more compassion for those who suffer, for those who are on the losing side, and perhaps find ways to raise them up as well. Shabbat Shalom.